10 college friends embarked on an adventure to explore the famous Mossdale Cave. What happened to them just 1 hour after entering the cave shocked the entire world. Even the rescue team was stunned and confused, having no idea how to save them. So, what exactly happened, and how did they get stuck? On June 24, 1967, a group of adventurous students decided to explore Mossdale Cave. There were 10 people in total, and they were excited to explore. Mossdale Cave, nestled in the heart of the Yorkshire Dales in England, is renowned for its natural beauty and hidden dangers. It stretches about 10 kilometers long, with tight turns and extensive passages. Once you enter one passage, it takes 1 to 2 hours to reach another. The 10 students arrived in the afternoon on August 4th. Before entering, they decided to split into 2 groups. The first group had 4 members, while the second group had 6. They entered the cave carrying some equipment. First few hours were blissful. They were having the time of their lives and enjoying the cave experience. But as they moved further, the passages became narrower, making it more difficult to proceed. The first group, consisting of 4 members, felt uneasy and decided not to go beyond the current chamber. They exited the cave at 5 p.m. in the evening. Meanwhile, the second group, eager to continue, pressed on. This is where the story takes a dark turn. You're about to witness one of the most frightening incidents in caving history. When the second group reached the cave's exit, they discovered that the weather was turning rainy, and rain could start at any moment. They left their friends in the cave without informing them about the approaching storm and went home. However, one of their friends, Morgan Forbes, decided to stay near the cave. Now there were 6 members left in the cave, unaware of the impending disaster. These 6 were 19-year-old Bill Frakes, 23-year-old Colin Vickers, 26-year-old Dave Adamson, who was familiar with the cave's dangers and had visited it before. He had planned the entire trip, 24-year-old Jeff Borrow, 17-year-old Michael Ryan, and 21-year-old John Ogden. The group continued moving forward in the cave. Around 7 p.m., the winds turned into a storm and heavy rain began. What happened next was shocking. Morgan, waiting for her friends to emerge, grew anxious because she knew that if the cave flooded, it would be disastrous for them. The heavy rain caused water to seep into the cave, flooding it slowly. Despite this, the second group continued to enjoy their exploration. Unaware of the conditions outside, they reached a section of the cave called Super Marathon, which had only been discovered by a few people before. They were thrilled to have achieved this milestone, but their excitement was short-lived. Suddenly, they noticed water approaching at a rapid pace. Shocked and confused, they didn't know what to do. Dave, the most experienced member, told them to find a place to breathe and take shelter. Meanwhile, Morgan, worried about her friends, tried to enter the cave to check on them. However, they were too deep to reach. By 9 p.m., the cave was completely flooded. In 1967, very few people had telephone. Morgan knew she needed help, so she set out to find assistance. After running 2 miles in heavy rain, she reached a farmhouse and told the farmer what had happened. The farmer immediately contacted the police to inform them of the dire situation. When the rescuers arrived, they were stunned by the scene. The cave was entirely submerged in water. Realizing they needed more manpower, they called for additional rescue teams. As more rescuers arrived, they too were puzzled about how to save the 6 trapped individuals. It was completely dark, so they asked locals to bring their cars and tractors to illuminate the area so they could find a way into the cave. But it was impossible to formulate a plan until the rain stopped. The night turned into day, and the area around the cave resembled a war zone. Eventually, the rain ceased. The rescuers devised a plan to dig a hole about 6 by 10 feet as quickly as possible. This seemed nearly impossible given the lack of modern equipment at the time. They had only basic tools, and it would take a long time to dig. Without wasting any time, they began digging. Due to the lack of equipment, people started using their hands to remove the mud more quickly. Despite their efforts, there was no certainty they would finish in time or even find the lost student. Nevertheless, their relentless digging paid off, and they managed to complete the hole. However, the 6 members were still inside the cave. The rescue team connected a large pipe to the hole and started pumping out the water with a motor. Finally, the water began to drain at a good pace. It was time to rescue the students. 41-year-old brave caver named Jim Iyer stepped up to lead the mission. Jim was a well-known caver, and interestingly, he had been invited by Dave to explore the cave. Jim convinced additional cavers to assist in the rescue. More pipes were brought in to accelerate the water removal. Despite their exhaustion from working day and night, Jim and the team decided to go inside and save the students. They moved slowly forward, checking every possible route. But with the cave filled with water, visibility was poor, and the noise of the water was unsettling. After several hours, they reached a section called Rough Passage, where they could finally stand. They rested briefly and continued their search. As most of the water had drained, rescuer Tony Waltham, who was familiar with the cave, joined them. The team proceeded toward Far Marathon, still finding no sign of the missing group. Tony Waltham was astonished that the students had reached such a challenging part of the cave, as only a few had managed to do so before. The team was apprehensive about entering Far Marathon, but had to do so to save the student. Far Marathon is connected to a chamber called Near Marathon, which is about 900 feet long, requiring a 5-hour crawl to reach Far Marathon. When they finally arrived, they found 2 dead bodies. They were horrified by the sight. They hoped that maybe the other members might still be alive, but as they moved a little further, they discovered 3 more dead bodies. When this news emerged, families were devastated and couldn't believe they had lost their loved one. However, one member of the group, John Ogden, was still missing. The team searched desperately for John but couldn't find him despite their best efforts. They sought help from Bobby Lickey, who had created the map of Mossdale Cave. He informed the rescuers that John might be in a passage beyond Far Marathon. The search continued, then tragedy struck. The weather department warned of impending heavy rain. The rescuers had to leave the cave, leaving the dead bodies inside. It rained all night, making further rescue attempts impossible. When the rain stopped on Tuesday morning, the team re-entered the cave, hoping to find John. By then, Mossdale Cave had become international news, attracting global attention. It seemed improbable that John Ogden could still be alive after such heavy rainfall. However, there were still hopes, so they decided to make one last attempt. After searching for a while, they found a ring and a shoe, leading them to believe that John might be signaling them. They resumed the search, but despite hours of effort, they found nothing. Suddenly, the rain started again, and the cave began to fill with water. It was now too dangerous to continue, and it seemed impossible to retrieve the 5 dead bodies. Rescuers obtained permission from the police, doctors, and families to leave the bodies inside and exit the cave. It was concluded that John had also perished by this time. The authorities then made the drastic decision to close the cave, leaving all 6 dead bodies inside. If you enjoy watching claustrophobic real stories like these, be sure to subscribe now.